Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about the best way to protect your Toyota from rust. In specific, we're going to be looking at my 4Runner here, and we are going to remove the rust, treat the rust, and protect the vehicle from future rust. As you can see, I have a few spots on my bumper, on my sliders, and on my frame that are starting to get some rust on them, some surface rust. And so we're going to go through 3 simple steps today to remove it, treat it, and protect it. Let's get started. Alright, and so for step number 1, we want to remove the rust. And in order to do that, I'm going to use 3 things here. I'm going to use a drill with a drill brush on it. These are just wire brushes that are used to remove the rust, the surface rust, get down underneath the paint when it's starting to bubble a little bit. Then we're going to treat the rust with Crud Killer. This is a rust remover and inhibitor. We are going to apply it with just a very basic paintbrush, and that is going to remove the rust off of the metal. Once we do that, we're going to make sure the surface is clean, and we're going to use a very simple rust paint. You can get these spray paints anywhere pretty much that carries paint. We're not a body shop, we're not going to do anything crazy today, but we're just going to use a rust paint, and we're going to build up a layer of protection. And the step that most people skip is going to be the 3rd step, and that's to provide a protective layer over our paint. And to do that, we're going to use wool wax. And so wool wax is a lanolin wool finish here that keeps out oxygen, keeps out salt, and water from actually corroding your frame, your metal on your vehicle. And so we're going to spray a protective layer over. Similar products could be fluid film if you've heard of that. And so this is just going to be our protective layer over top of the paint to really prevent any moisture from getting into our metal. And so that's going to be the 3-step process. And so let's go over to the truck, tape it off, and get started. Alright, so now that we have a lot of the surface rust off and some of the paint off, keeping in mind if I was going to do this completely redone, I would take all the old paint off, because anything we paint over top of that chip paint is just going to chip off because the lower layer is chipping. I'm just going to touch up my sliders right now. I'm going to repaint them probably in a season or 2. And for the meantime, we're going to pour in some of this Crud Cutter in here. Beautiful. And now what I'm going to take a paintbrush and I'm going to go paint it on the rusted parts. Alright, so now that we have the sliders pretty much prepped, we've removed the rust, and by doing so, we used the drill brush, we used a wire wheel, and we took all that loose paint off. You can notice I still have some paint on. Well, I put on the Crud Cutter and it got most of the rust off. If you look really closely, there are some deeper pitted spots that still have rust, which is okay. We're going to hit them with another round of Crud Cutter, and if it doesn't come off, I'm not too worried, because we are going to be doing that layer of Rust-Oleum paint. Sure, it's a cheaper way around it, but the special part about this is we have that 3rd step, which is the sealer, which is the wool wax. When we put over that lanolin coating, that wool wax, it's actually going to seal out any moisture, any humidity, any sort of salt, any sort of oxygen, which means it's going to kill the rust. And so I'm not too worried that it's there. Yeah, I wish I could refinish the metal and have it nice. But with that 3rd layer of wool wax, we're actually going to seal out the rust from getting any worse. So I'm not too worried about taking all the rust off. I just wanted to make it a nice paintable surface by taking the surface rust off. And so as soon as this dries in about 30 minutes here, we're going to start painting it with just some basic Rust-Oleum paint. Alright, and so now I'm absolutely bombing this slider with paint. It looks not too good, of course, you have the old paint in there, but they're sliders. They get hit up with rocks and mud and all that crap, and the paint comes off in no time at all because they're used to slide on rocks and all that kind of stuff. So I don't really care too much. I bombed the top side here. It's still wet, but what I'm going to do is put some cardboard over, spray the bottoms, but I'm not going to spray them too much because I'm going to be wool waxing the bottoms and the bar that connects to the frame here anyways. And so if you're painting your frame or anything, you want to get like maybe 2 to 3 coats on. You don't have to cover all the rust if you are going to wool wax. If you're not going to wool wax, I would highly recommend covering all the rust spots. But if you are wool waxing or fluid filming, we're just going to do a very basic base coat, and then we're going to cover it with fluid film or wool wax. So let's do that now. Alright, now that everything is painted, we're going to move on to the next step, which is prepping the wool wax. I have my sprayer here, and I have my spray bottle. I'm just going to use their Easy Pour and put it into the sprayer bottle. And you want this at room temperature. If you have a cold garage, sometimes what I do, I submerge the bottles in warm water, and we want it nice and viscous so it's going to spray evenly and spray all over the frame and in the crevices, and so it can still move around, so it can get in all those creaks and crannies. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill this up, and that should be perfect. This is messy, very much so. And so I'm going to clean off my hands, I'm going to connect the sprayer here, and then I'm going to show you guys how to spray on the wool wax. Alright guys, so that brings us to the end of the video here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for watching me take care of the rust on my truck, and I hope that this really helps you to take care of the rust on your truck. These Toyotas will last forever. Sadly, the thing that usually doesn't is the frame. If you can get in there, remove some of that surface rust to stop it from spreading, give it a little paint job, and most importantly, cover it with some wool wax or some fluid film or something that's going to seal out that moisture, you are going to do yourself a service that you're going to look back and say, I'm glad I did that. Also, very easy to do at home. I'm going to link everything I used, or at least I'm going to try to, in the description of this video, so if you're interested in checking out some of the products, feel free to do that. And as always, guys, it means the world to me when you subscribe, when you like the video, and just when you're here to comment and build this community up. And so thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.